Good Thursday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Day 2 of training camp for the Browns out in Berea, and we will talk plenty of Browns straight ahead. We begin Mike Florio talking about the Deshaun Watson suspension and how closely the NFL will be monitoring the decision when it is handed down.
If any discipline at all is imposed by her, either side can appeal it. The question is, if it's light, will the NFL exercise its prerogative to appeal to the commissioner, who could then say, sorry, Sue, 4 games, not going to cut it. And I really do believe, Chris, I don't know how much we talked about this yesterday because I did a few radio spots, and it's the first topic, or one of the first topics everybody wants to ask about. I really do believe that the NFL is going to pay very close attention to the reaction to Judge Robinson's decision.
Yeah, right.
And if it is overwhelmingly negative, they have a way to fix it. They appeal to the commissioner, who can say, hey, everyone out there who is mad that Deshaun Watson was only suspended 4 games, I, the guy whose name is on every football, is going to make it 17. I mean, that still can happen. That's the way the procedure is. So either way, it needs to get done, because look at what the Browns are doing for now. They got to get both guys ready. That's something else Stefanski said yesterday. They're splitting the reps between Watson and Brissett, because Watson's got to be ready whenever he plays, and Brissett's got to be ready most likely week 1.
Again, Mike Florio talking about the whole Deshaun Watson situation and how it could play out. Mike Florio also on what he feels the meaning of Jacoby Brissett being named the quarterback if Deshaun Watson misses games, kind of what the Browns are thinking there as well.
When Brissett was signed, there was a vibe that it's going to be maybe 6 games, and Brissett's the guy that would step in. If it becomes 17, it's still Brissett, but I think the deeper message is they don't really believe it's going to be the whole season. I think at most they believe it's going to be 8. I've reported they're bracing for 8. And so Brissett's the guy. They're not going to go get Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not going to try to do some other deal and bring somebody else in. Cam Newton had been mentioned a few weeks back. No. It's Jacoby Brissett backed up by Josh Dobbs or Josh Rosen. That's what the depth chart's going to be.
Yeah, that's what they're going with. So that's fine. They don't want to confuse things. You know, I've had people ask me about Jimmy Garoppolo, but like it's just going to make things, you know, dysfunctional at some point. Or what if you're doing really good with Jimmy Garoppolo and he's 8-0 and you guys are 7-1? You're gonna we got Deshaun Watson, we paid him all this money, we're gonna bench Jimmy Garoppolo? It just causes more problems than it's worth. They signed this group of quarterbacks knowing what could happen, and signed it and did it knowing that maybe Deshaun won't be there, but Jacoby Brissett's played a lot of football and he's capable of holding down the fort. And, you know, I, like you, I've heard from some people in the league that, you know, again, I don't think they know for sure, but I think the feeling, I think we've talked about this the last 2 days. You know, I've heard 12, 10, it's going to go back down to 10 or 8, something like that. So that seems to be where it's going to go. And I don't doubt the Cleveland Browns with Jacoby Brissett.
Interesting. So another take about what happens in the length of the suspension. Take a look at this. This is from CBS Sports 2022 Training Camp Bold Predictions. Deshaun Watson gets suspended for 12 games. Consider other starting quarterback suspensions stemming from sexual assault allegations. Ben Roethlisberger got 4 after initial 6-game ruling. Jameis Winston got 3, but they resulted from single incidents, whereas Watson at one point faced civil lawsuits from 24 different women. Now, the thing about that's interesting that needs to be pointed out, the NFL presented 4 of those 24. They were going to present 5, and one of them got thrown out. So CBS Sports and all these national people keep throwing around the number 24. It ended up being 4 that was presented to Judge Robinson. Not 24, 4, just to be clear about that. All right, Chris Sims, from Pro Football Talk, on what the expectation should be for the Browns if, in fact, Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback for a significant portion of the season.
As awesome as Deshaun Watson is, even if he can play week 1, I don't think he's going to be the Deshaun Watson we saw. So they got to be able to play some defense, be a little bit more dominant against the better teams in football this year, run the football, and do that. You know, we talked about a lot at the end of last season. They're a disappointing football team. They could still, in my opinion, and like if Deshaun Watson got suspended the whole year and we were sitting here in December and we were going, man, the Browns and Jacoby Brissett are in the playoff conversation. They win the last 2 games, they might sneak in. I don't think that's shocking when you talk about a team that's arguably got the best offensive line in football, got a really good defensive line, got good linebackers, got an unbelievable corner duo, good safeties, receivers, okay. They improved the position, good tight end play, maybe the best duo at running back. I mean, listen, when you say it out loud, you start to go, wait, why can't Cleveland hold down the fort and go 5-3 with Jacoby Brissett? Why can't they? Their team, the roster is really damn good. So I give them a fighting chance even with Jacoby.
And with that, let's welcome in Quincy Carrier. Quincy, that's a really valid point by Chris Sims. And I'll add to that, the first 4 games aren't that tough.
Yeah. The first 4 games aren't really the issue when you look at the Cleveland Browns schedule, right? Like, it's not really like a murderer's row there. And then once you get past the first 4 weeks of the season, you really don't know what any team you play at that time is going to be like, so there's no guarantees on how tough or easy this schedule is going to be. But I've been saying this for a while. Like, the Browns, they would love to have Deshaun Watson for the whole year. They would love to have that top 10, 7, probably 5 quarterback play that Deshaun Watson provides. And that would allow them to make a lot of mistakes and allow them to win a lot more games than they would with the Jacoby Brissett. But his team is still built that they could survive and be a playoff threat without Deshaun Watson. And, just look at last year. As disastrous as last year was, as awful as the offense was, as bad as the quarterback play objectively was, team was like 1 or 2 wins away from making the playoffs. You know what I mean? And they had those opportunities right in front of them. And that was with a quarterback, for whatever reason, providing what was the 27th ranked QBR in football. If you think Jacoby Brissett can't be higher than the 27th ranked QBR in football, like, I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation for somebody who's done that before in his career. I mean, people point out that, the Colts did this in 2019, and look how it worked out. Look at those numbers for Jacoby Brissett. They're not awful. They're 3,000 yards, I think like 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And then you can flip to look at Baker Mayfield that same exact year, and you can see where he wasn't as good as Jacoby Brissett was that year. Like, the idea that you can't get more than league average quarterback play from just league average, quite frankly, quarterback play from Jacoby Brissett, I think is a little bit like disrespectful to Jacoby Brissett, given that he's proven he could do this before.
All right, so we have talked a little bit about Madden rankings on this show. The 99 for Myles Garrett kind of jumps out. CHS Browns fan comes up with a Madden ranking for Judge Sue Robinson. So let's take a look. Speed, nothing. Decision making, 0. Power 100. I'm going to have to argue a little bit with interest in the case. I think that CHS Browns fan is being a little harsh. We're not sure about the interest in the case. Overall ranking 25 for Judge Sue Robinson. I got to argue about the interest in the case. Quincy, what do you think about that? I think that's being a little harsh. 0 interest in the case might be a little tough.
We do this every time when these suspension things come down. Look, the league does not care if the Browns have to split reps in training camp. Nobody's priority right now is what the Browns have to get prepared for the season. Like, the Browns have traded for this situation. This was a part of it, right? When you trade for Deshaun Watson, you go into the training camp expecting not to know how many games he's going to get suspended, or at least you have to know that that's a possibility. The fact that people are feeling like this is where I separate with a lot of people on this. The entitlement some fans feel that the NFL must announce this in a timeline that's convenient to the Browns is a ridiculous expectation for anybody to have, given that why would the league care on what timeline the Browns want this done by? The Browns don't matter in this situation. This is a matter between Deshaun Watson and the league. So the only timeline, the only deadline, I've been saying this for weeks, that actually is real for the league or Sue Robinson is the start of week 1. Anything else before that, you're getting it early, quite frankly. You know what I mean? So I know people are getting tired of this whole thing hanging out. But the expectation should have been from the beginning that we weren't going to get a ruling super early on this. I don't know why everybody thinks that she's going to read these. This is not homework for your college class. She's not going to read a couple briefs, write some paragraphs and be like, that's the ruling. That's not how this goes down. This is going to take a couple of weeks after she's read the briefs. And also consider she might already have a ruling in mind, but she might want to wait to announce it to make sure no new Deshaun Watson news pops up between now and the start of the season. There's a lot of reason why this suspension announcement is not going to come as immediately as some people want it to. And the main reason people want it to come out immediately is for convenience to the Browns. That means nothing to anybody making any decisions on this.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The other thing is Sue Robinson may be trying to, through the back channels, get the league and the Browns and Deshaun's people to agree to a settlement so it can be negotiated so it doesn't get appealed. Quincy, Carrier, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. We will take a look at day 2 of training camp for the Browns. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Second day of training camp. Browns out on the field, still not in pads. That will happen on Tuesday. Let's take a look at some training camp video. Good sign as a rookie wide receiver, David Bell. Not able to go full go because of that foot. Still working on the hands in practice in the early going. Also, Deshaun Watson back on the field, getting ready to get things going as they were working on the footwork. All of the quarterbacks getting some work in, doing drills, trying to work through the maze and get the accuracy dialed in. A good look at Watson there, avoiding the rush and then throwing. Jacoby Brissett doing the same things, getting the footwork and avoiding the rush, getting the fundamental work in as well. Again, both guys did some work with the team splitting the reps, and it ended up pretty evenly split between the quarterback, Deshaun Watson, and Jacoby Brissett. Some concerning news happening, though, out in Berea as Anthony Schwartz pulled up during a drill and appeared to re-injure his hamstrings. We take a look at the tweet from Mary Kay Cabot from cleveland.com. As Schwartz pulled up, had a hamstring injury, and needed to be attended to. Left with the trainers, and again, the concerning part of that, had that injury last year and got healthy near the end of the year. Saying that he's having his knee checked, but the leg injury, again with the speed guy, always concerned. Kevin Stefanski addressed the media, talked about Amari Cooper and that wide receiver group today.
I think you guys are getting to know Amari, just like I'm getting to know Amari and spending time with him. He is a little bit more low-key, not loud and boisterous, but he's a great teammate. He's brilliant, smart. I sit right behind him in meetings. He's as smart a player as I've been around. I really enjoy having him out here. I enjoy watching him work. I mean, he's such a big, imposing figure at that position, and to watch him go through drills and take extra reps. He won't take himself out, so Coach O'Shea is the one that has to manage those type of reps, but he's a pro's pro all the way. I think you hit it. Consistency is really, really important for any position, but that receiver position, certainly we're looking for guys that can perform on a consistent basis. We do have Amari who's done it at a high level, throughout his career, and we do have young guys that we're excited about. So it's a group, on whole, it's a group that we're excited about.
And Quincy, again, the wide receiving group you're concerned with because it's a bunch of young guys. Schwartz going down, Bell unable to practice, although, it doesn't look terribly serious. It's got to be a concern.
Yeah, it's that early part of training camp. You know what I mean? It kind of happens all the time where we get these small injuries. And, the offseason in general is a lot of fun for doom and gloom time, but I think they're pretty much fine here. Bell going out, we knew that was kind of a minor injury at the beginning of this whole thing. With Anthony Schwartz, and this kind of reminds me of the Josh Rosen thing where people are making a mountain out of a molehill here. Like, I don't know what the expectation internally was for Anthony Schwartz. I know what my expectations were. It wasn't that he was going to be carrying the offense. I thought he was going to be competing for time here with Jakeem Grant, right? When you look at both of those players, they could do similar things. Hell, you can even add Isaiah Weston into that conversation, right? Because, Anthony Schwartz isn't much different than those guys there. So, yeah. Anthony Schwartz going down, is that not good? Obviously, it's not good. But the Browns, I feel like they have multiple guys on the roster already that can kind of fill up that role if need be, and who might have filled up that role. I mean, Jakeem Grant, we've talked about him when it comes to Demetric Felton's roster touches, and we've talked about him when it comes to Anthony Schwartz touches. He was going to be competing for that role there at the that situational X wide receiver spot that Anthony Schwartz is occupying. So I've more so feel bad for him as far as his development and his career, because you want to see him kind of take that next step and see what he can do. This injury, hopefully it's not major. Hopefully it's just like a 2-day thing and he's back before the end of camp. But even if he has to miss a week or two, that's still a lot of time that he can't get back. And he's at a critical part of his career where he has to, prove it that he can be one of those guys that can make the team right now. Because, even with a not great deep room like the Browns wide receiving room, he's kind of on the chopping block.
Yeah, he'll get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt just because as a third-round pick, they'll give him as much time as they can. All right, interesting, John Johnson III. Again, another guy that today talked to the media, talked about this year's team chemistry. That's something that the Browns have really focused on.
It's a lot different. Like, the vibe is way better. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like everyone feels that same vibe. Like, we got a lot of guys back. That continuity is huge, especially on defense. So it's fun, and we're enjoying it. Can't wait to get out there on the field.
You guys were tested so much last year in the secondary. Just with every week, it seemed like you had to have a different combination out there. Everybody's back. Just how much does what you went through last year as a secondary help you going into maybe this season? It's unpredictable, anything can happen, but as far as being prepared for those things.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough conference. The AFC is stacked. So like you said, it's hard to make it through a whole season. There's going to be different combinations, but that's why we work so hard now to train everyone to be ready to play at any given moment. And like you said, I think we're callous. I think we built those little scars, but we healed up from them, and now we can put our foot to the gas and get things going.
Quincy, it's interesting when you hear multiple guys talk about the team chemistry and the vibe is different this year, and it's this early. It might give you an indication of how rough and how not so good it was a year ago.
Yeah, every indication that we have gotten from anybody close to this team has been, man, last year was kind of a mess. Remember how in 2020 the same thing kind of happened where Kevin Stefanski walked in the building and they were like, wow, it's so much better just because one guy's not here anymore. I don't want to point fingers at who that one guy might not be, but there was somebody whose presence was not universally appreciated. I think we can say that much is fair about whatever the situation was last year in that locker room. There was clearly something dividing the locker room that wasn't a media fabrication when people pointed it out. But, you know, there seems to be a lack of that element right now, despite all the speculation on the Browns quarterback position of what bothered this team last year. What that element is, I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I when I hear it, and I hear it from multiple guys on the defensive side of the ball, it's got to be the truth. All right, I know you've addressed this on your show. Can the Browns running backs carry this offense if they need to?
Yeah, it's an interesting team, the group of players to look at, right? Because Dearness is really good, Nick Chubb's really good, Kareem Hunt's really good, and then when you look at this offensive line, you got a lot of really good road graders there as well. So, yeah, I do think this is a team that could, this is an area of the team that could be a major strength. Obviously, the defense is going to have to carry the most weight if Deshaun Watson is not out there, but the running back room and offensive line going to have to carry probably that second load there to help this team get over the top. But yeah, I do think this is a good enough group of players and a good enough grouping of players in this run game that, you know, it's going to be good enough to beat a lot of teams as long as you play smart, good football.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll hear from Amari Cooper talking about Deshaun Watson. We'll also talk some offensive line. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
And you're talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Amari Cooper, the guy the Browns went out and acquired to be the #1 wide receiver, out at Browns training camp today, talking about Deshaun Watson and his skill set. Remember, Cooper has caught passes from Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, and now will do so from Deshaun Watson.
Every quarterback has their nuance. Some throw harder than others. Some have a faster release. Different small things like that. But I mean, over the course of your career or my career, like I said, this is my first year in the league or my first year playing football. I've had
had the opportunity to play with a lot of different quarterbacks. So I think I've played with, most types. You know what I mean? I played with guys who release the ball fast, played with guys who throw hard. You know what I mean? So yeah, it'll be just adjusting to who's back there.
Where does Watson rank among those quarterbacks? Have you been able to tell?
What you mean rank? In what category?
I guess skill set.
I mean, he's right there at the top. I mean, he could do everything. Like I call him the magician. He just makes plays out there. He's incredible. Some of the stuff that I've seen on film with going back to him at Clemson, he just makes it happen. So he's definitely up there at the top.
And Quincy, that's kind of what you would expect your wide receiver to say, but you can tell by the way it was framed by Amari Cooper, he believes it.
Yeah. By the way, Amari Cooper, future NFL head coach, the way he answered and not answered. Asked him at that point, right? Like, rank all the quarterbacks. What a question to be asked, right? In your first week of training camp with a new quarterback. And he was like, he's up there. It just moved on. Didn't elaborate or nothing. Amari Cooper has a future in head coaching as far as press conference ability goes. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Amari Cooper fits with the Deshaun Watson. I think he actually fits really well. If you look at what Watson does well, right? Watson does timing routes well. He's really accurate with the football. He anticipates very well, right? What does Amari Cooper do really well? Anticipation routes, right? He's especially good at outs and working outs in the end zone. I mean, the famous Deshaun Watson play back in Clemson is him going to Hunter Renfrow to win the national championship. That is a route that Amari Cooper has not just mastered, has invented new ways to run since he's been in the NFL. So those two being that good at those type of things, the anticipation stuff, the going over the middle, stuff like that, I think they're going to be a really, really good fit together. I think that chemistry is going to be pretty easy for those two guys to get because they're both good at the same thing. Now, that's not a guarantee. Obviously, we've been through the whole quarterback wide receiver chemistry thing enough here in Cleveland, right? Like, we don't need to rehash any of this old stuff. But it's not a guarantee, but it is a good look there. And, people around the league respect what Watson can do. I mean, you ask anybody around the league, they still feel like he's one of the best out there. And there's a reason why people perked up when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson versus, when they knew they had to prepare for somebody else at quarterback.
Yeah, the other thing that, Cooper being a precise route runner kind of fits in with the whole timing and anticipation, because if you run the route, Deshaun Watson, if he knows where you're going to be, he'll get you the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Deshaun Watson, he's going to get you the ball in the right spot. You just got to be there. Or the one thing that he did that other quarterbacks who have been here in the past have not done is 50-50 balls, right? Like when he would give a guy a chance to make a play on it. That was one of the frustrations about one of the quarterbacks that was here last year that took most of the snaps. And, that might not be a frustration this year where, hey, if Donovan Peoples-Jones feels like he needs more 50-50 balls and you feel like you can give him a chance and he's going to come down with it, you have those opportunities because, again, Deshaun's really good at that. Other quarterbacks that have played here in the past have not necessarily been great at that, which has led to some friction, right, between that room and that position.
All right, so this is from Pro Football Focus. One superstar for each and every NFL team. For the Browns, they go Joel Bitonio, another lineman whose play has been improving as he approaches and passes 30 years old. Been playing at that level that would seem to make him a household name, even if his position is overlooked as a guard. And again, we've talked about him a little bit on the show, Quincy. Bitonio is just kind of underappreciated because he's a guard. He goes out and does his job.
Yeah, he's not like a big personality or anything. He's just kind of just Joe Bitonio. He's kind of the continuation of what Joe Thomas was here, right? Like the spiritual successor to Joe Thomas. But yeah, Joel, I mean, think about it. When we name off the names on this roster, guys who are at the top of their position groups on this team, right? We go Nick Chubb, we go Wyatt Teller, we go Deshaun Watson, we go, all these guys, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, JOK. We always kind of leave out one of the best guard in the NFL, if you believe Pro Football Focus is great, in Joe Bitonio. And he was fantastic last year, only 31 years old, so still has some years left in his prime. Like, it is interesting to see how he started really good when he came into the league for the Browns. He's only gotten better. He had kind of a down year in 2020, which is interesting, but then he bounced back, had the best year of his career so far.
Yeah, and the other thing is kind of playing next to Jedrick Wills, so left tackle. And Bitonio talked today about Wills and what he expects to see from Jedrick Wills heading into his third year.
Yeah, I mean, he has all the ability, and I know he tried to dedicate himself. He worked with a couple of different guys this offseason to just keep, pushing himself and working. And Coach Callahan always has something up his sleeve what he studied and tried to put in, to help us out. And he has, the best edge rusher in the league to go against in training camp. So he'll be able to test some of that stuff out. But no, I think he's ready to take that leap. And, it's an exciting time, first round pick, third year. It's a big step. Linemen, take a long time. Offensive and defensive linemen usually take a couple years to get set. And I think that third year is a year where you can see a big jump.
Did you get frustrated last year, whether it was not playing how you wanted to, but also fight through that injury that you had for all year?
Yeah, there was definitely some frustration. I think, probably more so to the injury, and then you can't perform to your level, especially at a athletic position where you're moving around and stuff like ankles and all that type of fun stuff is not fun when you got to play like that. So there's definitely some frustration there.
And Quincy, we've talked about it. It's a big year for Jedrick Wills. If he plays the way they think they're capable, the way the 10th overall pick of the draft should play, that offensive line is pretty darn good.
He's been good the last 2 years, too. Like, he hasn't been a disaster. I feel like people talk about him like he's been a disaster. But he's been pretty good his last 2 years. You're just waiting for him to take that step, right? He's been a good left tackle. You want him to stay a little bit healthier. I think he's done a lot the last couple of years because of his first year. He was good in pass protection. He was in run blocking, right? Like, he was bad in run blocking. He's closed that gap. So where he's equally as good in both. And now you're just looking at him to see, hey, are you going to be a really good left tackle like a Jonah Williams for your career? Or are you going to take that step into superstardom, relative superstardom for a left tackle, but elite level offensive line play where you're up there with like the Pro Bowlers, the Trent Williams, everything like that. That's what we're looking to see with Jedrick. But the game, I hear people talking like he's on the cusp of not being good or not being a starting level left tackle. The Browns haven't found a replacement. The floor with Jedrick Wills is like pretty good, and then the ceiling is what we're really waiting on. But I don't know. People have been all up and down on him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was because try moving around and pushing 300-pound guys on one leg. That's basically what he was doing every Sunday afternoon. All right, Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit about Grant Delpit and defensive tackle position for the Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
A mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Quincy Carrier and I continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. John Johnson III talking about a guy in the secondary that plays alongside of him, Grant Delpit, who is a pretty popular pick for a guy that's going to have a huge year. Here's John Johnson III on Grant Delpit.
I mean, he could be one of the best, like, period. Like, in the game that we got today, you know, our safeties, we don't really get mentioned in those top-tier safeties, so I think this is an opportunity for us to, you know, we know each other and just feed off each other and be the best. I want to say tandem. Is a tandem 3 people? Can a tandem be 3? Well, the best trio, I think we can be the best trio in the league, and I'm just looking forward to it.
And Quincy, I know you've addressed this on your show as well. Do you think Grant Delpit elevates this defense this year?
Oh, if he plays at the level, I mean, like, let's remember, you know, I think people have forgotten because it's been so long, but Grant Delpit in 2018 was looked at as, like, you know, Derek Stingley level, where Derek Stingley was like a top 3 pick. They were thinking like Grant Delpit was going to be that. There was comparisons to Ed Reed. I've been watching those 2019 those LSU games, and it's amazing how just a few years removed, the injury has kind of like lowered the expectations on this guy. But let's not forget why people got so excited about him as a prospect. It looked like he got some of that burst back. We saw this with Nick Chubb, right? Where Nick Chubb had that horrible knee injury his junior year in college, right? Came back for his senior year, was pretty good, split carries with Sony Michel. All of a sudden, his rookie year in the NFL, 2 years removed from that ACL injury, he looks like one of the most explosive running backs in football, right? It usually takes that second year after that kind of an injury. And when you get these injuries and you're young enough to recover from them. And that's when you really see these guys blossom. We'll see what happens with Grant, because if Grant becomes a certified dude, that's the terminology I'm going to go with, certified dude in that secondary, with John Johnson back there, with Greg Newsome, with Denzel Ward, with whatever they want to throw in between there, and JOK, yeah, this could be a really good defense. And we'll see if they perform up to that expectation, but they could reach really high ceilings if Grant Delpit turns out to be what people thought Grant Delpit would be back in 2018 and 2019. Because that dude, I mean, there's a reason people compared him to Ed Reed.
Yeah, he could run, he can hit. No question about it. All right. Do you think the Browns have a problem with at the defensive tackle position? Again, I know this is a topic that you have addressed on your show. Quincy has his own show, YouTube. You know, you can search it. Is it a problem, D-tackle?
It's a little bit of a problem, right? I understand why the problem is existing, because you can only fix so many things in a roster in a given day. But it is also something where I'm a little bit concerned of, because it's not necessarily the greatest spot to be in, right? And the spot that they are in is Perrion Winfrey, who you're hoping, right? You put him at 3 tech and he just becomes who he was at the Senior Bowl, and he's going to start for you and be a very good player. Cool. That's best case scenario. Let's say best case scenario happens, because I do believe in Perrion Winfrey. What else are you going with at defensive tackle? That's best case scenario, right? Jordan Elliott, who's been awful for a couple of years, objectively. I mean, you look at his Pro Football Focus grade, he's been under 40 his entire career. He had 600 snaps last year, was still abysmal when it comes to those grades. So I don't know if he's an NFL defensive tackle at this point. It's been enough time with him and enough snaps. Then you had Tommy Togiai, who, again, didn't get that many snaps, but graded out similarly poorly to Jordan Elliott. And then now you got Sheldon Day, who's solid. So you got Sheldon Day, Perrion Winfrey. You need 2 guys to step up. Who are those 2 guys going to be? That's the issue, right? So we'll see if anybody steps up. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jordan Elliott takes a step. Maybe Tommy Togiai takes a step. Maybe these guys blossom this year, and I sound like an idiot. I take that gladly. But I do think that when you're relying on a position, and Taven Bryant's also in that rotation. We'll see what happens with him. But I just don't love that rotation. And this is the NFL. Guys get injured all the time, especially along the line of scrimmage, especially in the interior lines of scrimmage. What do you do if somebody gets injured and you're already not deep there? I mean, like, at that point, it's almost irrelevant, I guess, because the guy you would pick up off the street, not that much different from the guy that you're probably putting in that rotation because it's just not a good rotation. So that's a little bit of a problem. Do I think there's ways to mitigate that? Yeah. Do I think they will? Yeah. Especially if guys like Grant Delpit become who we think he can be. JOK similarly, if guys have breakout years, it will be mitigated. It's not something that's guaranteed to ruin the season, but it is something that could become a reoccurring problem when it comes to stopping the run.
Yeah, that's it. There is no run stuffer. He does not exist. The defensive run stuffing tackle does not exist right there. So you're right. They got to find a way to mitigate that. Again, I know you addressed this topic on your show. How does Deshaun Watson make the Browns a contender?
Oh, my goodness. How does he not? I think it's easier to answer that than it is to answer how does he. I mean, he won his ability to just come through in the fourth quarter. He's had, I don't know how many fourth quarter comebacks in his NFL career already. He's younger than Baker Mayfield. Keep in mind that. More athletic, just somebody who could come through in those moments. You have some faith there. Also, he has that athletic ability about him, right? If things go wrong, if your wide receivers can't get open, you have that element there, right? You can make up for a lot of the holes on this offense, which doesn't have many outside of the receiving position, with how good he is at quarterback. And you feel like, hey, if you need to go, you know what Deshaun Watson gives you? Last year, in 2020, the Browns felt like they had an adequate armory, right? Like, if things got wild, we can keep up with you. But when it came to the guys who had the tanks, we ain't had no anti-armor. You know what I mean? We had nothing for the tanks, right? When Patrick Mahomes came to town throwing 50-yard bombs to Tyreek Hill in 1 second to just erase a lead, we had nothing for that. Now we feel like we got something for that, right? Like, we feel like we have the armory to go up against a Patrick Mahomes, to go up against a Joe Burrow, to go up against a Lamar Jackson. We don't feel like we have to make up for being outgunned when we play those teams. So now we feel like it takes less luck to beat those teams. So, it's just he does so much, Deshaun Watson, as a quarterback on the football field to make you much better. I mean, he's had success everywhere he's gone. He's elevated the program. Clemson elevated the program to a national championship contender, a status that they have still not come down from after he has left. Texas, he came to the Texans. They were a bad team, right? They were trading all their first-round picks. The Browns had them. The Browns have finessed the Texans multiple times. The Browns, not even like Andrew Berry and the Browns. It was just the Browns back then finessing them for picks and everything else, right? They were starting Brock Osweiler. They bring in Deshaun Watson. All of a sudden, they're a playoff contending team with a really good quarterback. They have been elevated. This is what he brings. He has elevated every roster, every team, every franchise, every organization he has been on the football field. It's time. Now he's coming to a team that they're at a level to where his last team was. So if he elevates us any higher, I mean, that's a championship contending team on a consistent basis. So that's what Deshaun's done. The track record is there. I know we throw around the best quarterback since 1999, and it's hard to say that for a guy that hasn't played a snap for the team. But if we're looking at track records, the second he takes one snap in Cleveland, is the best quarterback that the Browns have had since 1999. And it's not even close. It's not even close.
Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff, man. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks, Quincy.
No problem. You have a great day.
All right, Quincy Carrier, make sure you check out his show on YouTube. Go search it. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking Browns. Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Straight ahead, Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms.
Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. Day 2 of training camp out in Berea. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated with 5 takeaways from Browns camp.
We got 5 takeaways from Browns training camp. Takeaway number 1, third-year safety Grant Delpit looks poised to take a major step forward. This is his first full healthy offseason as a pro. He was around the ball a lot in the spring. Takeaway number 2, Donovan Peoples-Jones has emerged as a name to watch on offense, showed up in great shape, looks like a nice compliment to Amari Cooper, and has already earned the trust of Deshaun Watson. Takeaway number 3, I think the Browns are going to be creative in the way they use the slot position on offense. Rookie David Bell, hybrid Demetric Felton, and move tight end Harrison Bryant are all seeing reps inside. Bryant, I think, is going to be one to keep an eye on. Takeaway number 4, if there's an issue to sort out on defense, I think it's the nickel corner spot. Troy Hill's gone. As a result, 2021 first-round pick Greg Newsome will probably see a lot of work inside. And then takeaway number 5, if there's a rookie to watch, it might be third-round pick MJ Emerson. The coaches really like his mentality and his length at the position.
Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Casey, it's kind of interesting. You hear a rookie to watch, and you hear the cornerback that nobody thought the position would be addressed in the draft, Martin Emerson.
Yeah, and I kind of want to tie him into his 4th takeaway. I think Emerson could carve a role for himself, kind of being the big nickel on this team. You know, he plays downhill phenomenally. He's got wonderful size for a corner, and I think he can help supplant the issues in the run game on like 3rd and short when another team would have to match up with a nickel. And as far as like Greg Newsome taking nickel snaps, I think that's awesome for him, at least at this stage in his career. He's super sudden. I think he's going to create a lot of problems for defenses with his ability to cut down crossers over the middle. I don't see it as much of an issue. I think they're going to have to be creative and kind of piece a couple players together, mostly with Newsome, and then getting Emerson on the field, you know, in those run situations, let him stick his nose in there and make a difference, you know, being physical from that position.
All indications are the Browns are thrilled with what they've seen from Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I know it's 2 days into training camp. They haven't really put any they haven't put any pads on. That'll come Tuesday. But there seems to be, every time you look up, Watson is connecting with Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, I think Jones is going to play a huge role in this offense, being the chunk player. You know, when you have a team like the Browns with such a dominant run game, there's going to be a lot of play action opportunities, especially down the boundaries. And that's what Peoples-Jones is. You know, he's not necessarily a burner. He does have really good speed, but he's that guy that can get you those 20, 30-yard chunk plays consistently. And I think that's going to be his role. And as long as him and Watson get that rapport going, that's going to be dangerous this year.
Another guy that figures into the offense pretty heavily is Amari Cooper. So Cooper, again, talking with the media today about his approach to being that number 1 wide receiver. Doesn't matter if it's Deshaun Watson or Jacoby Brissett at quarterback.
At the end of the day, no matter who's back there, like if I get open, it's gonna be easy for him. And if I don't get open, it's gonna be hard for him. Whoever's back there, every time I approach the line of scrimmage, I'm trying to create as much separation as possible. You know what I mean? And I'm just looking at a ball spiraling to me at the end of the day. So yeah.
So would you say that sometimes people talk a lot about that quarterback wide receiver chemistry? Would you say that maybe is a little overblown?
No, it's not overblown. Don't get me wrong, because at the reality of the situation, I'm not going to get wide open every play. You know what I'm saying? So that's where the chemistry comes in. That the guys who are guarding me, they get paid. Some of them get paid more than me. So.
And Casey, it's kind of funny. Cooper does not have the typical wide receiver. A lot of those guys that come off as divas. This guy's more like Nick Chubb, and the approach that if I get open, it's going to be easier for both of them. You got to like hearing that if you're a Browns fan or a Browns coach for that matter.
Well, every time you hear Andrew Berry or Kevin Stefanski talk, they always bring up the smart, tough, and accountable. It's exactly what they got in Amari Cooper. Cooper is a technician of a route runner. He's going to be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there, regardless of the quarterback. You know, he's going to be like that North Star receiver. You know where he's going to be. You can count on him. And that's what this team needed. They needed someone who's just going to be that dude and be where he needs to be. They got that in Cooper.
The other thing that people are talking about now is Nick Harris will step into the starting role at center. It's kind of interesting now. He took a lot of snaps because J.C. Tretter was not practicing. So J.C. Tretter was the starting center. He left. Nick Harris was backup. He was taking those reps during the week. Joel Bitonio talked about what he has seen with Nick Harris.
I mean, we got to get some game experience, you know. I mean, I know he's had his chance, you know, against Green Bay last year in the preseason a few times. But, I mean, the guy's got a lot of reps, you know. We were watching some film from 2 years ago just about a couple of the install plays, and it was Nick Harrison at center, you know, in training camp. So, like, he's been there. He's done a lot. And, you know, I know he's worked his butt off this offseason trying to keep adding good weight and good muscle. But, you know, I think mentally and stuff, like, obviously JC was very experienced and had seen pretty much anything you could throw at him. But Nick's working his way there, and he's trying to learn the playbook as good as possible. And, no, he's gotten tons of reps, so we're looking forward to see what he can do out there.
The other thing, Casey, I think we've talked about it, the fact that Bill Callahan is the offensive line coach, that'll help a young center.
Yeah, you have to understand that Callahan had to sign off on this. When they were looking at moving on from Tretter, there's no way he wasn't consulted, and he had to be comfortable with going forward with Nick Harris. And like what's going to be new to the rest of the world, seeing him take snaps during a game. Joel Bitonio has taken thousands of snaps with Harris right next to him. You know, they know what they have in the young man, and he wouldn't have gotten this opportunity after being in the organization for 2 years if he wasn't ready for the moment.
Yeah, and again, that's why they took him in the draft. They developed him, and it's what good teams do. Draft guys, develop them, then put them out there and let them play. Casey Kinnamon, Dog Pound Daily, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear a little bit from John Johnson III and Amari Cooper. Sports for CLE will continue. Stay with us.
Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. John Johnson III, Browns safety, talked about the Browns defense becoming dominant and what that entails.
I think taking the ball away heavy, you want to lead the league in takeaways, you want to limit yards, you want to limit points. I think those three things are the definition of a great defense. In my head, I don't want teams to even get a first down. So, and that encompasses all three of those things I just mentioned. So I think that's what it is.
And again, you know, he's one of the leaders back there, and that's kind of the roadmap right there.
Yeah, he touched on it. I mean, takeaways are huge, and they seem to come in bunches. You'll have them in stretches, and you'll kind of have a dry spell. But the main thing is points, you know. And we're talking about a defense last year that gave up 16 points or less 9 times. That is an elite metric. Problem is, they gave up 21.3 for the season, which has landed them 13th overall in the league because of inconsistency. There would be games where the floodgates would be open. And then they would come back the next week and be able to kind of turn that valve off and hold teams to, like I said, less than 16 points. And in this league, that's everything, you know. It gets said a lot, that bend but don't break attitude. Well, that's what you kind of have to be in this league because teams are going to get yards. This is such a passing league. There's going to be chunk opportunities. But to be able to have that elite defense that can keep them out of pay dirt, That's what this team needs to be. And they've shown they could do that. They just got to do it on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, and they really got things kind of straightened out midway to later in the year. Early in the season, they had a lot of new guys, and you could tell they were working through it. Okay, these are interesting. So this is one trade every team should make from the Bleacher Report. Browns are involved in 3 of these. So they say the Browns should trade Dearness Johnson to the Falcons. They say the Chargers should trade Jerry Tillery to the Browns, defensive lineman. And they say the Browns should acquire Tyler Johnson from the Buccaneers. Casey, when I look at that, I am not a fan of trading Dearness Johnson. You'd have to give me probably a 3rd or 4th round pick to make that work. And we'll talk about the other 2 in a minute. What are your thoughts about Johnson?
I'm with you. I think Johnson could be an invaluable player on this team. But with the way the running backs are getting hurt right now, it may be a phone call that comes through and you may get an offer that's just too good to pass up. Like you said, if someone were to offer a 3rd round pick, you have to take it. He's only on the books for 1 year, get what you can get. But it all comes down to, how does it shake out? Like we just saw the other day, like there's injuries happening. It's that time of year where you're going to see people fall out. And if that phone rings, you may lose Dearness Johnson. But if not, especially if they're going to utilize 2 backs in formations, Dearness Johnson could be a problem against other teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. Tillery, okay, I guess. Tyler Johnson, maybe. Neither of those really excite me. I don't dislike either of them, but I'm not jumping up and down for either of them either.
Yeah, they're definitely not needle movers, like no one's going to be like, oh, Tyler Johnson, like that's it. It's here we come, Lombardi Trophy. But there's going to be small moves like that happen later. And not like people want the stuff to happen now. The Browns are going to go into camp with who they have. They're going to let things play out. I know Anthony Schwartz just came up limping today. So who knows what kind of moves get made off that. I don't see any drastic moves. But they're going to keep the possibilities open. I wouldn't hate a Tillery signing, but like you said, it's not something that's going to excite me.
All right, before we let you go, Amari Cooper talked about what Kevin Stefanski's offense will look like this year. Here's Amari Cooper.
There's some coaches who are very, very intentional about taking advantage of the matchups and the skill set of the players. I think Kevin, he's really intentional about doing implementing plays that are good for the skill set of the players, you know what I mean? And I've been able to see a lot of that early on, particularly with me, like with double moves and stuff like that. That's something that I've shown I've been good at throughout my career, and we have a lot of those in. But without getting into too much detail about the offense, he's done that with all the players across the board,
And Casey, it sounds like because there are some new players on offense, including quarterback, this offense will look significantly different than it did a season ago.
Well, that's what good coaches do. They adapt to the talent that they have, and they're able to make it flourish, expose it for what it is. So when you got a player like Amari Cooper who does excel in those double moves, he gets deep a lot, and it's not usually on the single routes. It's when he gets someone caught up and he's able to transition into his second move. So recognizing your strengths and playing towards them is something that you're going to see a lot out of Stefanski this season.
And again, you have a quarterback who is successful at extending plays with the idea of running, but also with the idea of throwing it downfield.
Yeah, he's able to do that with his legs because he can threaten the line of scrimmage, causing people to freeze up for 1 second. And that's all it takes in this league. This is a league of just split seconds. And his ability to kind of threaten defenses will open up opportunities down the field for sure.
The other thing that you're seeing reports of is that the Browns are going to be kind of creative as far as the slot receiver goes. You may see Harrison Bryant in there. You may see one of the running back. So, again, that's an evolution of this offense.
Yeah, and all the players that were mentioned before, whether it's Bell or Felton or even Bryant, those are all different types. There's not one singular, like this is our slot guy, the slot type receiver. They're all different in body styles and running styles. So I think that they could, really affect the defense by switching lineups in and getting Harrison Bryant out on the slot and creating those mismatches.
Casey Kinnamon, Dawg Pound Daily. As always, great stuff, Casey. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Casey Kinnamon, Dawg Pound Daily. Make sure you check him out and read him. It's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow on Sports for CLE.